Good morning, everyone. Okay, thank you. FlytX is the next avionics suite designed by Thales, and it has it's a real breakthrough in avionics design. And as a human factor specialist, I'm very proud to give you this just a highlight on the 5 golden rules that has driven us all through the design of that new cockpit. And so I'm going to start with the first golden rule. These things here are called artifacts. They're discovered, and researchers just don't know what they're for. What is their use? No one knows. It's built by the human being, but it has lost its meaning. And why am I showing you this? Because when you look at this thing and you don't know what it is, it's very frustrating. But if I give you some sort of background on how to use it, then it can start to make sense. This artifact, with its use, becomes suddenly a tool. And why am I talking about tools? Well, it's because that we design tools. That is, this is a tool. That's what comes out of the lines of production. But this is a usage, and that's what we sell. We sell this, we don't sell that. That is just a piece of technology. We sell how to use it and the tool and its use together, and that's what makes it so important for us to be exactly, to know what we have to do. So we have to look into the human being, because that human being is the one that is giving the use to the tool. It's the one that makes the artifact alive with a usage, and that's what makes it a tool. So without the knowledge of the human being, we have no knowledge of what to do and what to design. The second rule, the second golden rule of human factors in design, is that humans are different. They're variable. All around us, you look around and you see people that are different in terms of height, weight, segment sizes. They're all different, hair, color, whatever. That's because of our genes. And that what makes us so different is what makes us so unique at the same time. But there is not one unique people you design for. You design for a lot of people that are so different, and you have to take into account all those variabilities to make them sensible inside your technology. And the thing is, it's not only we're different today, we're different around the night and around the day, around the year. So we're variable. It's called intra-variability. We're variable from the morning to the evening. We're not the same. We're not as efficient. And you look at yourself at the side of your bed in the morning, thinking about nothing. You're not very efficient. But in the end of the day, when you've worked a lot, then you found you were efficient enough. So variability is very important. So you have to take into account variability to make sure that you take that variability into the design of your system. But variability is not only human, because technology is also designed by humans. It has a form of variability also, and that variability you have to take into account. It doesn't always work. And if you take that variability into account, you cannot assess and make one size fits all. It doesn't work that way. It has to be for all the users that you are thinking for your system. And that's a tough task to do. The third rule. Well, the third rule is that, I'm sorry to inform you, but we are limited. We are limited by our dimensions. Some of our dimensions are physical dimensions. If you put an emergency exit, or a button behind or beyond the reach of the hand, then you will not be able to activate it. It doesn't work. So human limits are everywhere. And those limits are on every dimension of the human being. That is not only physical dimension, that means also cognitive dimensions. We're not born equal. We're just born equals in rights. We're not born equal. Some people have more brains, less brains, more physical strength, less physical strength, etc. So knowing that, well, you should not design for beyond human capabilities. And just to remind you, if you take into account, for instance, the number of passwords and loggings you have to memorize today, that is, for any one of you, around 20 minimum. We are not able to memorize 20 passwords and log in. We just can't do that. It's not humanly possible. It could be done if you spend all your resources trying to memorize. If you're like a chess player and you have a big memory and you just do that all the time, you can memorize them all. But for us, normal people, it's not possible. Which means, if it's not possible, then there are deviations. And well, you have an Excel file, you have a Word file, an Excel spreadsheet, you have a little book, and you write all your passwords on them, and that is wrong. You shouldn't do that. It's against policy. Yes, it's against policy, but it's the only way that we have to be able to manage all those things that we are not remembering. So designing within human limits is an obligation. You cannot ask users, and especially not pilots, to do things they cannot do. The fourth rule. Well, human beings are thrifty with their own resources. We're not lazy. We have a sense of economy when it comes to our own resources, ourselves. We just don't want to do more. We just want to do just enough to be in a good performance. And that is very sensible when you think that we're designed that way. Human beings have been designed to spare their resources, their own, for hundreds, thousands of years, because we have to survive. Survival of the species, it was driving us. So we are scarce on our own resources, and when something just doesn't make sense, well, we bypass it. We just don't follow the rule because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense in terms of resources to spend for a given objective. So we have to design with that in mind, is just ask enough for the task to be done with a respectable result, with a respectable performance, but not ask too much. Otherwise, there will be deviance again. People do not like to do more than what is necessary. Well, the fifth rule is, and the last one, is about creativity. When you look at this can of green beans, you think the person that did this obviously really needed to open that can, but did not have the right tool. So that person came up with a solution. It made up a complete new solution. And that is creativity. But when you look at the tools that were used, and I was talking about the screwdriver, this is an artifact. But when you look at it with a hammer and the use that's been done, it's not a screwdriver anymore. It's a chisel. To open a can, you use a screwdriver and a hammer. It works. It's possible, and it makes sense. It did make sense to the person that did this at the moment that they did it. We do it all the time. We do not use the tools that we have always the way they're supposed to be used. We try to make them better. We try to shortcut. We try to be creative, inventive. New designs are not always flexible enough, but we will make them flexible through use. And that is, creativity is really important because it means that the true need lies behind what these people do when they take an artifact and they change the use to make a new tool. And when we design something, we have to look into those because they're the real need behind the usage of our own technology. By the way, this is the the tool that we were looking for, the can opener. And this is another, it's called a catachresis. This deviation of usage, very efficient to open those blisters, the plastic blisters that you really can't open. They hurt your fingers and everything. And they really make sense. And it does work. And just for the road, here's another one that will help you. The people at 3M, when they designed Post-its, never, ever thought that Post-its would be used like this. It's a really new tool made from an old artifact. And it works. You don't sprinkle anything on the floor, and you collect all the dust of what you're doing, and your spouse will love that. So, just to be clear about, these are golden rules. They're high-level rules, of course. There was a lot more human factors involved in the design of FlytX, but these rules should be into the head of every designer making human-centered design, which we did on FlytX Cockpit Suite. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for your attention.